Yo, welcome back, everybody. I have another interview today. Today, I have joining with me Margo, aka SMARFWATER. Thank you so much for joining me today, Margo.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
All right, so Margo is a big presence among Celtics Twitter. She makes some of the best Celtics graphic design, arts out there. She actually made this shirt that I'm wearing right now. First question, how'd you get into graphic design?
So I learned Photoshop in high school. I took an art class called design and we did like drawing, painting, Photoshop, mixed media. And Photoshop, I just felt like it was my favorite. And then after being on like Celtics Twitter for a while, I noticed there's a lot of like graphics that people do and like kind of memes and stuff. So I just started making memes kind of on Celtics Twitter. And then when I graduated college last spring, it was like right when the pandemic hit.
Right.
And I was kind of struggling to like find work, figure out what I was going to do in like a remote setting. And I was like, well, I've been making like memes and stuff on Celtics Twitter. Why don't I try to make a job out of it for myself? So I've just kind of been like freelancing, um, doing like commissions of people's favorite players or like headers for their Twitter or like YouTube headers,
Nice, that's awesome.
stuff like that.
Yeah, so I know you're big with, especially with the Celtics. How did you become a Celtics fan? You're from Boston, right? Or from Massachusetts at least?
Yeah, I'm from like 10 or 15 minutes south of the city, but it's like
Okay.
really close. Um, and so my dad also grew up in like Dedham, Massachusetts, which is really close to the
Okay.
city. It might even be like bordering, or the line might split through it.
Hmm.
But yeah, he's been a Boston sports fan his whole life, and so is his dad. And it was always on. Like the Celtics were always on. He was, I'd say, a bigger Red Sox fan. He had season tickets that he had like inherited from his dad. And
Oh
so
wow.
I mostly went to Fenway like all the time and wasn't a big Celtics fan until like '08, which is when I started playing basketball, which
Nice.
I only played rec basketball. And I was the shortest and I was a point guard.
Nice.
And Rajon Rondo was on the Celtics
Yep.
and I just fell in love with him. Like that's when I really started just like living and breathing Celtics.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's about the same time I fell in love with the Celtics as well. I'm from New York, so I actually used to not be a Celtics fan. I used to be the biggest Tracy McGrady fan in the world.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah, so when he was on the Magic and with the Rockets, whenever they were in New York or even sometimes New Jersey when the Nets were there, I would always go try to see him play. But a couple games in a row, when he was with the Rockets, he'd only be here like once, maybe twice a season. So every time I'd go, he would be hurt. So I'm like, all right, I got to find a player to follow who I can actually go see play. And I'd always
Mhm.
really liked Kevin Garnett, and he went to the Celtics. He got traded there. So I'm like, all right, you know what? I like the green. I'm going to be a full-fledged Celtics fan now. So it's been that ever since, and I'm not looking back.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, KG was huge in me like loving the Celtics because he just like made it so hype. Like he made it kind of like a winning atmosphere and it
Yep.
just has like carried on, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like he really set the standard for what like every Celtic wants to be now.
Yeah.
So you said, you also went to Fenway a lot too. So I know you're a huge Celtics fan, but do you still follow the Red Sox and maybe like the Patriots or the Bruins as well?
I followed the Red Sox pretty closely until they traded Mookie Betts. And for me, that was like Babe Ruth type betrayal.
Yeah.
Like I have not watched a game since. But I
Really?
mean, yeah, I mean it was rough. I mean, I went to the University of South Carolina and so did
Okay.
Jackie Bradley Jr.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Um, so I kind of like continued being a fan like loosely but not really paying close attention. I don't know. I might get into it this season because it's kind of back to like pre-pandemic timing for like when
Right.
sports are being played and I feel like
Right.
baseball is a good just like summer thing.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
yeah.
opening day is tomorrow, so
Oh, I did
That
not
pretty
even
well.
know that.
Yep.
Wow, that's
Yep.
exciting.
Yeah. The players that got back from Mookie, Alex Verdugo has been pretty awesome. He had an amazing season last year. He might not be Mookie Betts, but he's not too bad.
Is he one of those like younger guys that,
Yeah,
because I know
so
the team is pretty young right now.
he was the Dodgers' top prospect the year before, so he wasn't a prospect anymore during for the trades. That's why they didn't get back any like top prospects from them, but he basically was their top prospect, and he's been pretty good. He's looking like he's going to be like the centerpiece for the Red Sox, other than like Devers for a while now.
Wow. Yeah, that's exciting. I'll definitely. So are the Sox playing tomorrow?
I think so. I'm not 100%
Well,
sure. I think everybody is actually.
okay. Yeah, I'll definitely tune in and look out for him.
Awesome. All right, so you've been a Celtics fan about the same amount of time as I have, really. Um, I know you mentioned Rondo and KG, but who are some of your favorite Celtics that you've seen come and go or still here?
Um, I really liked Nate Robinson when he was with the Celtics.
Really?
Yeah, I loved how he could just like him dunking was so fun and he was just so small.
Yeah.
KG's another one. I'd say Paul Pierce is up there for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's think. Oh, Kelly Olynyk. I wish we kept him around. Same with Terry Rozier.
Yeah, I like to joke around that Kelly like single-handedly ended the Wizards franchise.
Oh my gosh,
That
yeah.
game seven.
Yeah. Kelly Olynyk is so fun to watch. I'm really excited about him being on the Rockets now because I feel like, well, I actually have him on my fantasy team and
Oh, nice.
he's seemingly had like a really increased role over in Houston. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm excited for him. I think he is underrated.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe a little overpaid though. I wouldn't have given him that contract, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely miss his presence on the seas.
Oh yeah. That's how I feel too about Terry Rozier. Like
Yeah,
this season with him excelling the way he is, I'm like at the trade deadline, I was like, I really want to get Terry Rozier back, even though it's never gonna happen.
yeah. Him and Gordon together have been pretty fun seeing them succeed.
Yeah. And now they have Brad Wanamaker too.
That's right. I forgot they got him at the deadline. Wow. So they're bringing back the whole
Yeah.
band over there.
Yeah. They just
Surprised
need
you
Kelly
didn't.
Olynyk.
Yeah. Surprised you didn't mention Marcus Smart. Your whole Twitter name is named after him.
Yeah, I honestly I kept thinking about Marcus Smart, but I was like, well, he's currently on the team. I was thinking of kind of more players that like have come and gone.
Gotcha.
But Marcus Smart is totally up there. Like he's probably one of my favorite players. I'd say like right now, just like watching the team and being hype about the team, Robert Williams is probably like my favorite player to like experience right now.
Okay.
But as the postseason comes closer, Marcus Smart is just going to show why he's Marcus Smart. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll have some highlights.
Yeah. Marcus has really become one of not just like my favorite Celtics, but one of my all-time favorite players. Like he's just the effort he puts out there is just incredible. I just love watching him play.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of how I loved like Manny Ramirez as a kid. Like it's just
Yes.
that like they'll live and die for Boston.
Yep. Yep. This offseason could be a weird one for the Celtics as we still do have that trade exception that, well, we don't have the one for Hayward as much, but we now have a new one created because of Daniel Tice. Fournier might walk. If there's anybody that you would want the Celtics to add this offseason, who would that be?
Um, so what at the trade deadline, I honestly thought that the Kings would wait on Harrison Barnes and see like if they could get more back for him in the offseason, which it seems like they're doing.
Right.
Um, so Harrison Barnes would be up there for me, or again, like John Collins. Like those two players were really big, and neither of them got moved.
Right.
So, and I think they'd really help at like the wing position. John Collins, especially being like a four and being able to like, I don't like him and I mean, him and Robert Williams would kind of, I feel like, be a great like combo, if not like kind of rotate on and off with like a
Right.
bigger player at the five. So yeah, I'd say like between the two, probably Harrison Barnes, because I feel like he's like a young vet,
Hmm.
which like, and he's been to a championship, so he has that experience that I feel like would help the team a little bit. Um, yeah. What about you?
I've always been a huge Karl Anthony Towns fan. So
Oh my God.
if
Yes,
he's
that
put
would be
out there, I would
amazing.
love to get him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love him. I like the idea of him being on the Celtics is so unreal. It reminds me of like the KD or AD like going to
yep,
the Celtics thing.
yep.
But I mean, the Timberwolves have to do something. They have to switch it up somehow if they want to be
Yeah,
successful.
I can't figure out why nothing has worked there. They've
Yeah, it's weird.
because
I was thinking it was the coaching, but I
now
don't
seeing
know.
what Thibodeau has done in New York, with the Knicks, they've been great. So I don't know if even if it was the coaching because he had a great team there and it just didn't work there. It could just be the city itself because I know they travel, I think, twice as much as the next team, like distance wise throughout the season. So that could
Wow.
really take a toll on the team just because there's no teams near Minnesota.
Yeah,
So
it's also kind of like in the middle of nowhere. It seems like it's not
exactly.
really a big city, and you kind of need those like I just feel like the Celtics really feed off of fans and like the winning like mentality and expectation almost that's there like behind the
Yep.
scenes a little bit because like it's the Celtics.
Right.
So yeah, I mean it's hard to be like the Minnesota Timberwolves and be like super hyped like trying to
Yeah.
go for a ring.
I know one Timberwolves fan. It was this kid Ryan I went to high school with, and it was funny. He would try to like debate me with who was better, the Timberwolves or the Celtics, and all the time I'm like, dude, you're nuts. Like he was the biggest Nikola Petrovic fan that you will ever meet. Um, It's a nice kid, but him being a Timberwolves fan of any team was very interesting.
That's funny.
All right, so all the stars have been teaming up lately. You have Blake Griffin and Marcus Aldridge going to the Nets, Andre Drummond going to the Lakers, on top of all the stars in both places. How do you feel about that?
Um, I well, I'd look at them separately, like the Nets and the Lakers. The Nets, I think it's kind of a ticking time bomb because they do have such big personalities over there, and like
Right.
they're none of like all these stars are kind of in the second half of their career. I'd say like they still have the potential and like do play at their like peak, like putting up like 30 plus, but it's just like I don't know. I don't know how it'll work out. And I feel like they could very easily be like knocked out like the Bucks were last season by a
Yeah.
team that really wants it and like players that have never been at that level before. So I'm not that worried about the Nets. I mean, I'm super optimistic about the Celtics. However, like if KD, Kyrie, and Harden are all going off, like that's hard. You need to have Jason and Jalen also going off, and like
Yeah.
ideally Kemba as well. Yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, like this season, I'm my biggest thing is like hoping that they get knocked out before we would have to play them. But
Right.
I still think it would be like a phenomenal series if it was like the Eastern Conference Finals, Celtics now.
Yeah.
And then the Lakers, I think we'd beat them in the finals.
Well, based off of how we did against them last year, was we played them twice. We beat them by 30 the first game, and the second game we lost by two, and there was some terrible calls by the refs in that game. So yeah, so I agree. I do think that we would beat the Lakers.
Yeah, I think the game they played earlier this season together, it was another close game too. Like it was kind of like the refs were not playing, like not refing in favor of the Celtics at all down in like the third and fourth quarters.
They never do.
And like, yeah. And then also a huge aspect of like the Celtics going up against these like superstar super teams is Jason Tatum always plays up to players that he's looked up to. Like he
Yep.
always steps up and like just somehow goes off being guarded by like AD or Giannis. Like
Yeah.
it's incredible to watch. And especially with fans being back. Yeah, I'm not worried about the Lakers at all. They're a little geriatric.
Yeah. Yeah, no, with Tatum going off on his, like on the superstars. We already saw him hit a game winner over Giannis, the reigning defensive player of the year and MVP to start the season. We saw him posterize LeBron as a rookie. Last year, we saw him drop 40 on Kawhi Leonard, who's like, widely considered to be the best defensive player in the NBA. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I agree. When Tatum is hot, there's not many people that are better.
Yeah, it's hard to stop the side stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. That move has become iconic among Celtics fans.
Hmm.
I know you haven't been a Celtics fan for a long, well, you've been a Celtics fan for a while now, but even with the Red Sox before that, and you played sports. Are there any memories that like specifically stick out to you sports wise, whether it was, either the Celtics or the Red Sox, something you happened in your personal life, whether it was just watching a game, being at a game? Are there any like real memories that pop out?
There's two that pop out. So one of them was I had the op it was actually like right before my grandfather passed away. We still had season tickets, and like me, my dad, my aunt, my uncle, and my grandfather all got to go to I think it was game 6 of the 2013 World Series, like when the Sox won.
Yep.
Um, and it was kind of a blowout, but like a World Series, like a winning World
Right.
Series game at Fenway. Like it was so fun. But I remember my dad was like, "You should have been here in '04. We were all streaking. Like no one was super like no one was going crazy. It was just it was really fun, and I was in high school, so I remember it a lot. And then um I was still pretty young. Like when the Celtics, like the '08 season, I was only like 10. But then I, and so like I don't remember it that well. Like
Right.
I remember like the feeling of how much I love the team, but I can't like visually remember like watching the games or anything.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the
But
same boat. I was 8 at that point, so
yeah. But then I do remember because I was like watching with my dad when the Lakers beat us in 2010, I think it was.
yep.
And oh my God, I just remember like we were just so mad. And it
Yeah.
was, I'll never be able to say I'm a fan of Pau Gasol after watching that.
Yeah, I genuinely do believe though that 2009, if KG hadn't gotten hurt, we would have won the championship. And then
Yeah.
2010, if Perk didn't go down, we would have beat the Lakers as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like there's been so many instances in in Celtics history, like I guess from like the 90s on, where like players have either like got injured or like actually died. Like
Yeah.
it's crazy. Like it's so unpredictable, and people will get on Danny Ainge for like things not going the way that he had hoped. And it's like
Yep.
how can you expect like Kyrie to get injured, IT to get injured, KG, Perk, like
Yeah.
so many things have
Hayward.
happened that yeah, exactly. There's so like it's crazy. And then this season, like COVID affecting the team early, had a lot of people like really pessimistic about this team.
Yeah,
But
Tatum said he's still dealing with stuff from that.
yeah, that is super sad to hear, because especially because like there's so many athletes that have gotten it. Um and like they're young, and
Yeah.
like they're I'd say that they're some of the healthiest people in the world. And for them to be experiencing that is just like, wow.
Yeah. Like the pitcher for the Red Sox, Eduardo Rodriguez, didn't pitch last season because he was dealing with lung problems because of COVID.
Wow.
Yeah, he missed the entire season because he got very sick from it. And, he's a major league athlete, top of his game physically, and knocked him out a full season.
Yeah, I wondered. So I'm like a Patriots fan. Like it's not like I'm kind of distanced from them like the Sox after they traded Mookie, but I'm still like a Pats fan, especially with Cam Newton. And I
Right.
was curious of how having COVID affected him in the last season.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, so one last question for you. So sadly, in the world we live in, I know sometimes it's very tough for a woman to be interested in sports, and they get a lot of ridicule and some negative feedback. Um, how have you been able to handle that? And if you have any advice for any girls who want to get into the sports world, what advice do you have for them?
I so as I like I've been kind of doing this thing on Twitter for like almost a year now, and I've gotten a lot of negativity and like certain because it's Twitter, it's a very toxic place. So like
Right.
there's certain groups of people and people in general that like will just continuously be toxic towards you and it's like
Yeah.
funny. And that kind of thing is super like it really affects me because I have anxiety. So like when stuff like that happens, I just like blow it out of proportion in my mind and I'm like, oh my God, nobody likes me. Like I need to just delete my account and stop doing this and go get another job. And that's kind of with the being on Twitter. So, but one thing that like I kind of once I'm like out of the anxiety and kind of sadness from it, I think about all the people that continue to support me and love what I do. And like I've had people say like, oh, my tweets and just continuously being like optimistic about the Celtics is like really helpful for some people and they enjoy seeing my stuff out there. So
Yeah, I
it's
know
just like,
I definitely appreciate the positive tweets about the Celtics.
thank you. I
No problem.
appreciate that. Um, it's just, yeah, it's mostly for me, it's like putting into context that the supporters mean 10 times as much as like one troll and
Right.
like caring about them and continuing to do it for the people that care and enjoy what I do. And then also like meeting other women on Twitter and women in sports has been really helpful for me because I've found that women in sports tend to support each other and uplift each other rather than like tear each other down or be as competitive as some other people are.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely seen that as well.
Yeah. So that is also a huge thing for me is like trying to connect and make ongoing relationships with people that are supportive and supporting them as well. And then I just say like for anyone or any woman considering like trying to do work in sports, just like, not letting the negativity and comments like, oh, stay in the kitchen affect you because that's just people that are jealous or insecure and like see you having great opinions or great like content about sports and they're like, wow, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
And like being creating like a net like just anyone that's supportive, like they matter. The trolls don't matter. So and like it'll naturally your like what you're doing will naturally grow the more that you have supporters and are supporting other people and that's what I've found. But for me, like I kind of am using Twitter as like a stepping block to be able to build connections and hopefully get hired by like a team or company that needs graphic design so that I don't have to be so tuned into like the drama and like that type of atmosphere on Twitter. So I mean, I would like Twitter isn't the only way to like build a following. Like there's
Right.
Instagram, TikTok, and those places are a lot less toxic than Twitter. But you know, women in sports are awesome, and there needs to be more of them. So I encourage anyone to take it up if you have interest in it. Because like I am, there's like I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago, and I got some Celtics trivia wrong, and like it doesn't matter if you love if you love a team, if you love a sport, you can do anything you want with it, and
Right.
people will appreciate what you're putting out because everyone loves sports.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So I actually just thought of one more thing. So I know something pretty cool happened with you with the Celtics recently. You were noticed by one of the Celtics players. Jalen Brown had posted one of your designs. How that was awesome. How did that feel?
Oh, it was kind of a roller coaster because he posted it, and then the next morning I woke up and he deleted it.
Really?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened there. I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea, but it was it just was like really awesome to know, at least know that he like enjoyed the work I put out.
Yeah.
Um, it was sad that he deleted it, and it kind of had me like really down for that week. I was like, I don't know if I should do this anymore, because then he posts other he has in the since then has posted other like Celtics art and like kept them up. And I'm like, I don't know what I did because I'm a huge Jaylen Brown supporter, but
Right.
it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, my thought was it might have been like because he didn't I don't have like an Instagram account for like my
Right.
work. So it could have just been him, being a good person and being like, I'm not going to post someone else's art without crediting them. That's what I like to
Yeah,
hope.
that's what my thought was.
Yeah. But it was awesome. Um yeah, my hope is that like someday I can work for a team and put out graphics that like their players get to see like more often because it's posted from like a verified account or something. Because
Right.
that's like why I do it. Like I like after Daniel Tice was traded, I was just like so posting about Daniel Tice and trying to like anytime players do good things, I try to like put out good content
Yeah, like
that might like
show them support
yeah,
basically.
yeah, exactly. I think that's super important because like you see athletes getting trashed on all the time and it must affect their mental health so much that like
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's so easy to be positive. Like and you can just like for me, I just say like retweet if you love Marcus Smart and it's
Yeah.
popular. So
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. I had a I guess I want to say similar, just it was an interaction with an athlete for social media. Well, first of all, I remember everybody, by the way, going nuts for you on Twitter when he posted. Like everybody was like, "Oh my God, Margo, we posted your stuff!" Like I remember everybody was so excited for you. Um, but so I don't know if do you know who Justin Ray Foreman is?
I don't.
So he was the 53rd pick in the 2020 draft out of Hofstra University, which is where I go to school. So I overlapped with him for a year. So
Oh
his
wow.
senior year was my freshman year, and I got to see him play a ton. I was actually at a game where he dropped 48 points. So when he got drafted, I was
Wow.
very excited. So I'm like, all right, this dude got drafted from my school. I'm gonna be like his biggest supporter. So I would like tweet out a ton of stuff, just like at him, just like being all supportive and stuff. But something that happened during the bubble. So I don't know if you remember everything that had happened with Nick Cannon, where he had posted some anti-Semitic comments, basically,
Hmm.
and Justin had retweeted something saying that Nick Cannon did nothing wrong, but didn't actually know what Nick Cannon had said. Did some research on it, and then undid the retweet, but not before the media was able to get a hold of it. So he issued an apology and like everybody was ragging on him. So I'm Jewish, so I was definitely kind of hurt by it a little bit because I didn't see that he had on retweeted. I had just seen that he did it. I'm like, oh great, a guy I've been supporting just you know supported anti-Semitic comments. So I had tweeted something out saying like I'm a little disappointed. This is definitely hurt. He personally sent me a DM like a full paragraph like this big apologizing to me, saying that he's seen my support and like he reached out to me and sent me a whole thing like like showing like saying how sorry he was and that he'd love to hear more about like the Jewish religion and stuff and that he feels really bad about him. I was blown away by that.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That's like gives me goosebumps that happened. Like that's incredible to hear. That's awesome. There's I love when there's accountability like that, and
Yep.
especially like him reaching out to you. That's so cool. I'm so glad that it ended well rather than like
Yeah.
being messy, kind of.
Yeah, I still remember he messaged me at like 2:30 in the morning. I was playing video games with my buddy Ryan, and I don't remember what I was playing, but I was playing something. I looked down at my phone and I got a notification from Justin Wright Foreman. I thought he had just like commented on my tweet or something, and I went and looked, and I was refreshing and I couldn't find it. I'm like, where did he just message me? So I went to my DMs and I saw it, and I'm like, Ryan, and he's like, what? And I'm like, Justin Wright Foreman just DM'd me, and he started freaking. He's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, it was so crazy that he like reached out to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. I haven't had many like verbal interactions with athletes, but I mean, hearing that is like so just amazing because like you can be like on a smaller scale, like we are like kind of not like at like Woj or these big time people
Right.
levels, and like athletes actually care about what people say, like they
Yeah.
look and it matters to them.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I know, you've definitely at least reached, to Jalen, which is huge. NBA All-Stars acknowledged your work, which is just so awesome. My guy, has played 2 minutes in the NBA, but I still, still love it.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome to hear. Like it's so cool because like I said, like you can like woman in sports, like I am, like I feel I only have like 3,000 followers, like which is small for like NBA Twitter.
I just reached
And
200, so
I mean, that's that means you have 200 supporters though. Like
yeah,
for me, it's a lot of like kind of phony interaction. Like I have like 3,000 followers, but I barely get over like 100 likes. So
mm,
I feel like it's more about quality over quantity.
right,
And that's goes to the point of like, you can, even if you're just starting out, like I've only been doing this a year, like it matters to people, and athletes are searching for like positive like feedback on social media because there's
yeah,
so much negativity that like it means something to them, and like it means something to fans and like people that cover sports like us too.
right, yeah, for sure,
I've
yeah.
also I don't know if you know about the app Locker Room, but I've gotten to like go on Q&As with some like professional athletes. Like I got to
Oh,
ask
really?
Eric Pascal a question.
That's awesome.
And yeah, like every week it seems like they have like a new professional player. Like a couple weeks ago they had Andre Iguodala on,
Okay.
and like they because he's on the Heat. They also on the same like Q&A was like Kelly Olynyk, Tyler Hero, Bam. They were
Wow.
all there, and they just were like letting people ask questions like normal people, and it was
That's so
super
cool.
cool.
I'll definitely have to check that out. I've heard of them. I never downloaded the app, but I'll have to check that out. That's awesome.
Yeah, that part of it is very cool, like the engagement with athletes.
All right, everybody. That's it for today. Thank you so much for, coming in, checking out the video. If you liked, remember to hit that subscribe button down below, hit that like button. If you want to be notified whenever I make a new video, hit that bell. Um, if you want to buy a really cool t-shirt from Margo, her link to Redbubble will be down in the description, as well as her link to her Twitter account. Go follow her there as well. All my socials will be down in the description below as well. Thank you all for coming out, and peace.